Oh yeah. Bloodborne is my favorite game of all time, and probably the strangest title that falls under the Soulsborne Kiro Ring umbrella. It makes sense, obviously, with it being so directly inspired by Lovecraftian horror, and specifically, the Cthulhu mythos. I showed this earlier, but the first thing that comes to mind after mentioning Bloodborne would be the brain of Mensis. Like, just look at this thing, man. Completely bonkers that this exists. It goes without saying that it, and the moon carol rune that it gives after holding the make contact gesture in front of it for 30 seconds are not all that obscure really. And after all, that's like half the title. Something that's a little more obscure about it though, would be how these eggs in the Nightmare of Mensis gradually look more like eyes the closer you get to the brain. Okay, I'll stop talking about the brain and end the preamble. Let's get to the actual meat of the video. Just after sitting up from the table when starting the game, there's a book on the shelf next to the exit door. Using the monocular, or a free cam, shows that it contains all of the textures of the room as images. Sometimes, when you return to the Hunter's Dream, Gehrman is missing from either of his seats in the workshop, or next to the messenger thing, back behind the workshop. If you go over here and angle your camera correctly, you can actually see him at the base of the tree where your duel takes place at the end of the game. Speaking of the workshop, you can actually see Gehrman's weapon, the burial blade, hanging behind these blades just above the workshop itself. The flowers in the Hunter's Dream glow in the moonlight following the blood moon's arrival. The intensity of the glow slightly changes depending on the angle of the moon's light hitting the flowers, so if they're facing away, it's not as bright. There's some rare dialogue you can get from Gehrman here after killing Vicar Amelia, or the blood-starved beast, and entering the night phase. Go back to the Hunter's Dream and speak with Gehrman. He'll tell you about Ludwig, as well as the Odin Chapel workshop, and, after reload, will disappear from the dream temporarily, leaving a note telling the player to ascend to Odin Chapel, only returning once you loot the chest at the top of the Healing Church workshop. Once he's back, there's a 10% chance he'll be behind the workshop next to the messengers. Interacting with them gives this dialogue.
Oh, Lawrence. What's taking you so long? I've grown too old for this. Of little use now, I'm afraid.
After killing Rom and entering the Blood Moon phase, there's another 10% chance that he'll be here and deliver the following. But only if you've also heard the previous line.
Oh, Lawrence, Master Willem, somebody help me. Unshackle me, please. Anybody. I've had enough of this dream. The night blocks all sight. Oh, somebody. Please.
What a pussy. Exiting the Hunter's Dream, our next destination is the abandoned old workshop. Here, you of course come across the real, corporeal version of the dream, complete with part of a severed umbilical cord, a cute hair ornament, and a plain, old doll lacking any signs of life that the one in our dream has. Or almost any. There's a slight twitching in one of her fingers, which indicates something. I don't know. Faint music plays if you stand close to the window where Gascoigne's daughter gives you the music box. It sounds very similar to the theme that plays during Murgo's wet nurse's boss fight. Prior to patch 1.07, if you summoned Father Gascoigne and played the music box his daughter gave you, he would let out a little chuckle. After the patch, this interaction was removed, unfortunately. I'm sure most players are aware of Insight, and some of the various changes that could come as a result of gaining some. But one of the more unknown changes would be after 50 Insight, here at the main gate of the Cathedral Plaza. Messengers gather around its lever and help flip it after presenting the emblem to open it. This is pretty early in the game to have 50 Insight, so most people would probably miss it. Man, I think Insight is one of my favorite mechanics in all of Bloodborne. It's basically ripped straight out of a Lovecraft novel, where you gradually go more and more insane as you gain knowledge that completely unravels your understanding of reality. Well, conceptually anyway. In practice, it's basically just a currency that sometimes spawns a couple of enemies. But, that's still cool too. The Choir Bell is a hunter tool that heals you and all nearby co-op players based on your arcane stat. Despite that, if you attempt to heal Eileen after she gets injured at the Grand Cathedral, she'll get killed by the bell.
You can't go on like this.
This also happens to Ludwig's head after you beat him, and Simon in the DLC.
Oh, I can hear the bell now. The beast-eyed assassin. He's after me.
Eileen's wounds really seem more reminiscent of claws than the chikagi that the Bloody Crow actually uses. Kinda related to the bell, you can use the music box to destroy smoking pots in the Chalice dungeons for some reason. It doesn't work on poisonous pots though. When viewing the back of the Grand Cathedral while standing at the top of the stairs to Vicar Amelia's arena, it makes an eye shape. In Chalice dungeons, if you visceral attack an enemy, leave the room, and eventually return, you may find a bloodlicker drinking the blood. Some of the bosses in Chalice dungeons have unique idle animations while waiting for the player. The Thumerian Elder, the Descendant, and Queen Yharnam all kneel while waiting. However, the best of these animations is the Celestial Emissaries. The little guy is waiting, seated, staring at the ceiling. Isn't he just precious? There's also some enemies in the Chalice dungeons that heal using grass, just like the healing system the player uses in Demon Souls. Namely, the Labyrinth Warriors, Watcher's Gravediggers, Merciless Watchers, and Watcher Chieftains. For whatever reason, among these enemies, it seems completely random as to whether an individual has the ability to heal with grass or not. Sometimes, while exploring Lauren dungeons, you'll come across enemies with a red aura. This aura indicates a rally effect, similar to the players, where the enemies will gain back some of their health by inflicting damage. To balance this out though, their HP is reduced by 30%. Chalice dungeons contain quite a few unique enemies, of which the Gravekeeper Scorpion is maybe the strangest. They're mostly just a pain to deal with, constantly walking at you, trying to inflict poison with their stingers. But there's actually two versions of them. One is this guy, just an average Joe. Works a 9 to 5, blue collar, got a wife and a kid at home they didn't really want, but the old ball and chain kept hounding him and eventually he gave in. And this other version which carries a bunch of smaller scorpions on its back, presumably its children. Scorpions actually do this in real life with their scorplings for a few weeks until they grow enough to fend for themselves. They also have a pretty interesting death animation. Another strange enemy found exclusively in Chalice dungeons are the Hole Diggers. They're similar to Vagrants from Dark Souls 1, minus the convoluted spawning methods. They just appear in a few Chalice dungeons. Oddly enough, they weren't even included in the first printing of the official guide, so the community had to find this disgusting freak completely organically. Man, just imagine you're running through a Chalice dungeon and you find an enemy that's completely undocumented online. Illusory walls have always been a favorite feature of mine, ever since playing my first Dark Souls game. However, in Bloodborne, they only appear in Chalice dungeons. They're a little different from their Souls counterparts, and that they'll often emit a windy sound and some faint wind will blow, moving your clothes a little when near one. The Lauren Cleric can be found down here as well. They have a rare attack, where they send a pretty unassuming ring of fire out. What's interesting about this is that their mouth actually moves while casting, suggesting they're doing some sort of chant to bring forth the fire. Speaking of fire, some spiders in Chalice dungeons are actually afraid of it, just like these guys from Dark Souls 2. Walking at them with a torch will cause a visible reaction and result in them backing off and just passively watching you for a bit. This doesn't happen with the spiders in the Nightmare of Mensis though. The winter lanterns here have always been one of my favorite enemies, design-wise. Sure, Frenzy is annoying, but their oversized heads that are basically just brains covered in eyes that have tentacles sprouting from them are so sick. It's also worth noting that their heads are actually covered in dead messengers as well. These weird squid whale enemies known as crawlers found in the Poison and the Nightmare Frontier also have a bunch of dead messengers in their belly. And some live ones come out to play when they do this attack. In Hemwick Charnel Lane, there's a crowd of carrion crows bunched together. Within this group, there's one specific crow that's friendly, or at least doesn't attack you. Unfortunately, reloading the game nearby will cause it to lag. Dying to a Snatcher will result in being thrown in the Hypogean jail. There's a couple of bare-handed prisoners down here with you, and walking up to them will, of course, cause them to attack you. However, they have this strange, very rare attack. It looks like they're lunging forward to stab you, despite having nothing in their hands. What are they, stupid? Also in the Hypogean jail, the song Hail the Nightmare will play as you explore. The chant will slowly get muffled, eventually into complete silence whenever the blood moon descends. There's probably some lore reason or something for this. I don't know. Here's a couple of more commonly known ones. The Kirkhammer, Chikagi, and Ludwig's Holy Blade all have attacks after their L1 transformation. You can also block with the Kirkhammer and Ludwig's Holy Blade, oddly enough. It's similar to blocking with an Ultra Greatsword in Dark Souls or Elden Ring. It's a little janky to do though. For the Kirkhammer, you need to either start a running attack or an unlocked backstep attack, and, after being hit, hold down L2. For the Holy Blade, you can only do it with a backstep attack, but it's the same process. Just hold L2 after being hit. Speaking of the Kirkhammer, some of you may know it gets a hidden righteous bonus for 50% extra damage to certain enemies. Specifically these guys. But this buff is only applied while in the sword mode, oddly enough. The only other righteous weapon this happens with is the Threaded Cane, which is given a 20% bonus only when using the Cane mode. Weapons like the Church Pick, Holy Moonlight Sword, Ludwig's Holy Blade, etc. all have the buff applied during either transformation. Equipping the Enlarged Head will occasionally play sounds of water dripping. However, for whatever reason, probably just a bug, this doesn't happen with female characters. You could wait for hours and never hear the sound. There's footstep audio that plays when you perform the Beg for Life gesture. You can actually see the normal Astral Clock Tower from the Upper Cathedral Ward and Hemwick. The player's progress through the game can be kind of measured through the various moon phases. There's the sunset phase at the start of the game, the night phase after defeating Vicar Amelia, and the blood moon phase after Rom. However, there's actually another phase that is subtly different from the sunset phase. It only lasts from the start of the game until you kill Father Gascoigne, and the tone is a little brighter and less moody than the subsequent phases. Lady Maria's weapon, the Rakuyo, is designed to resemble clock hands with one long blade and one shorter. As you progress through individual Chalice dungeons, lanterns will be lit to mark where you've been. These can also be found in a couple places throughout the actual game. Notably, in central Yharnam, there's some hanging from holders shaped to look like messengers. They don't light as you progress though, they're just for decoration. You can fall like a dumbass while attempting to climb a ladder just as you fully deplete your stamina. The first time a player uses a lamp or dies, they'll get teleported to the Hunter's Dream, and this cutscene will play. However, doing a Dreamless Run, where the player never dies or goes to the Hunter's Dream until after defeating Murgo's wet nurse, which causes the dream to fall apart, will result in this cutscene. This is, obviously, pretty rough to achieve. It means no dying, no leveling, no upgrading weapons, no gems, not even a gun you can parry with. Before fighting Murgo's wet nurse, you will, of course, come across Queen Yharnam. You encounter her 3 total times, and she actually has a different model each time you see her. The first time is after Rom dies, causing the blood moon to descend. Note the flower embellishments on the dress. Her second appearance is in the Nightmare of Mensis, where she's missing the flower ornaments, but otherwise looks the same as far as I can tell. The final time you see her is as a boss in the Great Thumiro Ihil Chalice dungeons, where she does have the flower embellishments, but is clearly pregnant. Was it really worth killing her for the platinum, you sack of shit? Some of you may note that the majority of weapons do a little less damage when coming out of dodges, somewhere around 5 to 10%, but there's a few exceptions, namely the Chikagi with a 10% bonus, the Burial Blade with a 20% bonus, and finally the Blade of Mercy with a ridiculous 50% bonus. In Depth 5 Chalice dungeons, there's a very rare item you can find called the Ring of Betrothal. Once you obtain it, it's actually possible to propose to Queen Annalise, though she'll just reject you like everyone else.
Speak not those words. We have little need of a consort. Such a path would belike lead to further ruin. Thou art dear to us. We would see no harm befall thee.
You can kill Queen Annalise yourself, instead of having that dickhead Alfred do it. Takes 50 hits, no matter what weapon you use, and you can collect her flesh by reloading. Strangely, Alfred's questline won't change at all despite this.
There, you filthy monstrosity!
If you send Arianna to the Odin Chapel, she'll give birth to this freak after defeating Mikolash. If you speak to her, she'll give you this line of dialogue.
It can't be. This is a nightmare.
However, if you've consumed 4 blood of Arianna's, the dialogue will change to the following.
I've never been happier.
You can also get this line of dialogue with Adella the nun present in the chapel. Despite her usually killing Arianna after you receive 4 vials of her blood. It just requires obtaining and consuming Arianna's blood before sending her to the Odin Chapel.
Do you know somewhere that might take me in? Oh, thank you so much.
She only starts counting after she's arrived at the Odin Chapel. It's worth noting that the chair Arianna sits in after giving birth is actually always in this room. It doesn't just spawn in after she gives birth, though it is usually overturned. You can kill her and her child down here with only 2 pebbles. She keeps blinking after she dies too, for whatever reason. In Old Yharnam, just outside this door, you can see an object floating high above you, alone in the skybox. Using FreeCam, we can see that this is just a statue that the developers must have misplaced at some point. There's also a crucified blood-starved beast here that you can actually set on fire. All you need to do is go above and hit this rope. In Ludwig's arena, there's a living corpse who's kind of hiding among the viscera, or at least is a little hard to notice. Typically, he'll just get killed at some point during the fight, but with careful positioning, it's possible for him to survive. After the fight, approaching him will simply cause him to laugh. Speaking of Ludwig, it seems he actually regained some of his humanity after entering the second phase. Obviously, there's a whole cutscene where he locks the fuck in and clearly gets some of his lucidity back, but it's also expressed mechanically, because any gems that do extra damage to beasts, for example, become ineffective during his second phase. If you defeat the living failures just as one is respawning, the one that was respawning will stick around even after receiving the rewards for their defeat. Their health bar disappears, but they generally function as normal. They'll still attack the player. In fact, with this glitch, it's possible to have the meteor swarm attack occur during Lady Magria's boss fight. You can bait the silly goose into her arena, though there doesn't seem to be a way to get them through the clock, unfortunately. Staying on the Living Failures fight, you can cause a strange interaction using the Air Carol rune. Usually this rune gives an extra 50% blood echoes from visceral attacks. Once the boss is around 15% or so, ensure that all 4 living failures are spawned, and try to corral the 2 melees together. Parry and visceral attack one, ensuring you don't kill them. Now, you have a period of about 6 seconds to parry and visceral the other one, which should kill the boss. If you did everything correctly, you'll get a huge amount of echoes. I guess this happens because of some strange interaction where there's multiple entities that share one health bar, but also have their own individual health bars. So it's that interacting with the rune. As Lady Maria dies, she attempts the make contact gesture, before finally falling to her knees and fading away. Gehrman does this as well. While running to obtain the whirligig saw, some of you may remember this happening. Unfortunately, she isn't really dead. You can get her to stop LARPing by simply using Madara's whistle, and she'll stand right up. She seems like she might be concussed though. Also, if you really book it here, you can get crushed by her falling. The Odin Writhe Carol rune will restore some Quicksilver bullets, either 1, 2, or 3, depending on the tier, after visceral attacks. In the first phase of the Orphan of Causes boss fight though, the bullets gained are increased by 4 times, meaning you'll get 12 bullets each time you visceral the poor guy. You can parry pigs too, though I feel that's relatively common knowledge. Something that's maybe a little less common would be how any enemy that's backstabbable is also parryable. This goes the other way around too. The only exception that I know of are the headless Forsaken Castle Spirits in Cainhurst's castle, and that's just due to them not having a melee attack. Well, that's all I got. This video would not have been possible without the Did You Know section from the Bloodborne wiki. There's a huge amount of information that's been gathered there, and I would like to personally thank Mephistophia for taking the time to document a lot of these and compiling them all into one place. I love this game. Thank you for watching.